Thank you. Hi. Actually, as you've introduced it, I worked for Fiji tourism for many, many years. Actually, it's like Fiji is my second home. But I'm still with Pacific now with SPTO. I'm so glad I could actually lead a presentation today. So I just start my presentation by sharing my slide first. Okay. All right. Today's actually topic is quite interesting because I just like named it crisis to opportunities. We all suffering, so we know very well. And actually Korea just like have a level 2, so we couldn't really eat out until after 9 o'clock, but it's like a bit down at level 2. So actually Korea is still undergoing with a crisis. But actually I want to highlight there's opportunity as well. Actually, before I start, I introduce myself. As introduced it, I worked for Tourism Fiji for 13 years, actually, since I was like really baby. But actually, I work for other countries, including Indonesia, Mekong country, which is like Thailand, Vietnam, and Laos, Cambodia, and Myanmar too. And actually, I represented IORA Association as a tourism leader for Korea MOFA. So actually, I work for island country with diversity. This is my actually main job. And actually, my role is developing diversity into really tourism products. This is my introduction. As you see in the chart, this is a map we learned in the school. There is nothing on Pacific. So actually, Pacific was not learned by Korean people. Actually, again, middle school, we don't have anything on the Pacifics. So Koreans basically don't have much knowledge. And actually, we don't really know the names of the islands on the Pacific. This is kind of status we are having. But luckily we had it, direct flights by Korean Airline, 2005. But actually the route was closed last year. So actually we lost direct flights from Korea to Fiji. But actually working for Fiji Tourism, I actually learned a lot. And actually I studied a lot to overcome the situation. But actually we lost the route. So some people say it's failure. So many agents, many actually media people say, Korea cannot develop Pacific tourism anymore. But I don't think it's really reality because as far as I actually studied and worked, Korea actually don't know much about Pacific. That's why. That's basically awareness problem. So we have to start questioning where is Fiji. And then many people say Fiji is like somewhere in Southeast Asia. So we actually had a lot of promotions and awareness program. It was kind of basic environment. And actually Koreans love branded hotel. As you know, but most Pacific don't have much branded hotel. So it was really hassle too. And then Pacific people are really expert for relaxation, but Koreans don't. We actually need some activities and something to do. This is like a awareness problem for consumer side. And trade people actually love the promotion, like incentive, cash incentive or discount promotions, but actually it doesn't really work for Pacific Island countries. And actually, we had to compare a lot with like Bali, Hawaii. Actually, Hawaii actually had a kind of visa waiver program for Korean people. So those actually environments made actually us very, hardship for promoting Fiji and Pacific Island. But actually, the most important issue is we didn't really meet the Pacific properly. We have never actually experienced like true Pacific experience. That was actually a basic assertion from my side. Actually, we know Pacific as a really small island country. So we say SIDS. So we just consider small islands scattered on the Pacific Islands. That means actually, because of the small territory, small number of people, so actually you're quite vulnerable for the climate change and natural disasters. So all kind of news we face about Pacific is kind of disastrous conditions like climate change. And if you say Google, like Tuvalu always pop up with the sinking island countries. So Pacific, plastic paradise, these kind of newses we face every day about Pacific. So these all kind of tragic news made us Pacific actually, I mean, we just exposed properly. So actually, these are true. These are facts. Actually, we don't really have to hide them. And actually, but we have a kind of different angle. Not only small island countries, but also we have something different angles, which is big blue ocean continent. So if you just like upside down the map we are having, this is the reality. So Korea is facing Pacific directly in front of our territory. So actually, we actually lost our map. We actually didn't read properly the map we are having. So now actually we are having different angle to see Pacific from small island developing countries to big blue ocean continent. This is actually branding we are having in Korea now, as we're promoting Pacific in this angle. So actually, we didn't even read a name. There are a lot of islands, a lot of countries even. Like I mean, not only just island, they're actually territory, or they are, I mean, the independent countries. That's why Korean Ministry of Foreign Affairs supporting 14 countries, independent countries in Pacific through our funding. We actually, SPTO also highlights, we need to differentiate, we need to categorize Pacific into 3 categories, which is Polynesia, Melanesia, and Micronesia. So we actually advise them to actually differentiate each country depending on their culture, depending on their history, depending on their environment. So actually, we are actually advising Korean government to change their concept, change their perspective to Pacific countries. Actually, this is our dream. It's just dream, yes, but actually we are thinking actually to encourage Korean Minister of Foreign Affairs to consider open the routes from Korea, from all Asian countries to linking to South America through actually a certain hub of Pacific. Actually, Fiji is known the hub of the Pacific. Actually, Samoa is one of the actually participant to be another hub. So actually linking Samoa or Fiji with Lima or Santiago, this is kind of another way of dreaming in the future. So which means we can actually use the traditional hub, like such as Sydney, Brisbane, Auckland, Hawaii. This is like another way of traveling in the future, or trade routes. So actually opening this route, I'm sure Chinese, actually European countries even think about another way of trade and tourism. So this is another dream we actually having in Korean side. This is already actually operated by certain charter flights. It was from National Geographic Expeditions map. These charter flights operate every year. So it's the dream possible, but actually we need to create a market. It is actually our mission, our actually future step. We need to actually highlight tourism because with the scarce, I mean, the island scarce actually resources. We don't have much actually resources. So tourism is one of the biggest driver for economic development and human resources. So actually we can say tourism is the most important factor for economic development. So this is really kind of the COVID-19 issue is really, really problematic for us because tourism is dying. So we need to talk about this more from our side. Yes, actually, Pacific was growing highly. So the growth rate was highest among all continents. And even the number of the people coming to Pacific was really growing much, as you see it in this graph. So Fiji, Papua New Guinea, Palau, Samoa, Vanuatu were the main kind of tourism destination from Australia and New Zealand. And actually from Korea side, Palau is the closest, and we have a direct flight to Palau. And Fiji actually surely one of the best actually destination for tourism. Samoa is growing. Tonga and Vanuatu is also quite growing a destination for us. Actually, the GDP is really kind of affected by tourism industry. So the contribution is really high, especially Cook and Vanuatu are most affected. So we actually prioritize in terms of supporting destination in terms of marketing. So these are actually our criteria, how we can judge or prioritize. So actually COVID-19 changed everything, but changed really everything. So we didn't really expect this much when it started. Tourism is important again because it actually contributed poverty alleviation and gender equality, especially environment. Environment is the most actually important factor for tourism because Pacific is really blessed with pristine environments with a beach and nice actually oceans, everything. This is like the most important factor for tourism. But actually, since we actually have a much growth before COVID-19, we actually tried to drive tourism very vigorously. So we just forget to check our tourism development if it's a stable way. Actually, we just didn't mind to, scatter the natural resources. Pollution was one of the big issue, but actually we didn't really have to ignore it. So, but COVID-19 actually reminded something different. So we actually kept thinking how to overcome this crisis, how to prepare post-pandemics. So actually we tried to maximize the benefit to local people, while actually we recover our tourism industry. This is our kind of key agenda in the future based on 2 projects we are having. Actually, Korean MOFA actually is very amazing because actually it's the very first time for them to invest to actually contribute their ODA budget to tourism industry. So Pacific is the first donor from Korean governments. Actually, they actually invested, they actually contributed a lot before. Actually, Korea is the first country from actually who was a donor, actually recipient from recipient to donor. So Korea is the first country, the only country in the world became the donor of the ODA program. So Pacific is quite blessed, but small money still. But actually, we just were given this $1 million from Korean government last year. So we actually are operating for 2 years. It is called TTPP program. And also Korean government again, invested a lot more money, 300,000 US dollars for recovery plan. So under this funding, we actually plan a lot based to recover our tourism industry and to revive the awareness, the preference of Pacific. So this is the list of the program we are preparing now. So I'm gonna just go in depth after in following presentation. So if you have any questions, any comments, feel free to leave in chat room. So in the middle, I'll just go into the question room. We just start sharing first, and then I'll keep going. And not only for tourism, actually, Korean government kind of contributed to Pacific under Korea PIF Corporation Fund. Actually, the other funding for other continents are cut very much because of the COVID-19 situation. But the only Pacific countries actually kept the same amount, the promised amount actually for coming 3 years. So this is very thankful for Korean government. So actually, they recently invested 2.5 million for actually illegal, unreported, irregulated fishing operations. This is another news we're having now. And not only for the, the fishing operation, this is actually area Korean government is supporting to Pacific. As I mentioned earlier, so current COVID-19 has some blessing, not only for crisis. So I'm going to make more comments on this one. First, actually, COVID-19 encourages us actually to sustainability because we have to think about sustainability very seriously now. Because sustainability is as a new normal. This is the only vision. This is only the way we can recover the tourism industry back. So the better, the more sustainable, the resilient growth is promised. So sustainability has been highlighted a lot, even before COVID-19, but this is the only route we can actually achieve the rebuilding the tourism industry back. I'm sure this is quite interesting because you will have to know, you'll be curious how travelers will change their mind after COVID-19. So these are actually keywords that describe post-pandemic situation. So people don't travel anymore for a while because they're scared. is really for sure. And actually, even actually COVID-19 is decreasing and vaccine is operated. So people still be very careful in preparation and actually traveling outside. So they will try to stay longer in one border. So instead of moving around like all countries, they will spend more time in one country, in one city. So stay within the border is a kind of very big trend for future tourism, and slow tourism definitely. And actually they want to something like a new really something really important, kind of impressive experience, not just only sightseeing. So they just want to something different. So Pacific has a lot of amazing actually attractions. So authentic experience driven is really important trend in the future tourism. And special interest travelers are the leader of the future tourism. So divers, surfers who actually have to really do that kind will start traveling. So even Korea, actually, golfers is really playing around. So even during the daytime, they actually keep golfing in Korea. So actually golfers are really, it's high for Korean market. And divers also very active. So these actually special interest travelers will start promoting actually from outside. And small size, like mass tourism is gone. And people will keep finding information and booking through digital information. So e-platform is getting really important. This is a Korean trend, as you mentioned. So we are very hardworking people. So we didn't spend more than 5 days outside of the country. So even honeymooners, they spend less than 7 days. But actually people, according to research, people say we spend 10 days from pandemic situation. And they value more on actually experience, as I mentioned. They will search for information online, and they don't rely on to agencies anymore. And actually they care for hygienic. So before actually Korean mindful about price. So they try to actually find cheap flights, cheap products, but now actually they value more on hygienic issue. And packages like because like they don't want to travel with strangers. So with family and friends, actually these are actually the travel pattern that changes. So, and most interestingly, Korean replied they want to travel like Asia, nearest country, and European country, because they want to spend more time, actually spend longer time in European country to see something exotic experience. Most importantly, Pacific, because there's no cases in Pacific Islands. So Korean people think Pacific is really clean country. So this brand image has changed it, and then this will be very impacting to our future tourism and preparation. So actually, these are actually keywords. I mean, based on the research, people will travel with acquaintance, A. B, actually branded hotel, because of the hygienic qualification, and within borders traveling, and they'll prefer clean destination, on contact, they avoid contact, and they travel domestic first, and they just need some distinctive special experience in the future. The people travel individually, and e-platform is the most important actually keywords in preparation, information, and products and experience definitely. So those actually A, B, C, D, E keywords are the summary of the customers' behavior post-COVID-19. So actually we prepare according to this trend. So we highlight authenticity because of the special experience. Beyond classic, we need to think about our actually previous partner or segment and marketing strategy. We have to really think about the out of box. Communication is very important because people want to know more and prepare very thoroughly. And collaboration is definitely needed. Capture the concept. We need to highlight something really different from other competitors. And development, actually, tourism is one of the drivers, but we need to actually differentiate how to approach investment. And digitalization and diversity packaging, platforms, those actually keywords are response to actually our changed behavior of consumers. So I'll just go in depth about this ABCDE in following my presentation. So this actually kind of explanation about ABCDE actually that I mentioned in previous presentation. So we might highlight more actually technology, digital, informational, and then we actually change our platform, how to sell, how to give information to the consumers. We also have to review. This is actually the Korean story about Korean market and Asian market, but actually you have also kind of like kind of goal according to Pacific possible report. I've summarized like 4 area transformational changes. Number 1 was increasing of Chinese market, and number 2 is increasing tourism, and number 3 is a retired market. And number 4 is high-end resort, luxury marketing. So those 4 areas were mentioned in Pacific Possible Report as a transformational change for Pacific Island countries. But we need to review it because situation is changing. So actually, there's no mass tourism for a while, for many, many years. So Chinese market had been upgraded to the kind of luxury targeting. And cruise ship also is like, as far, actually, I just had a honeymoon to Fiji actually with a cruise company, but actually Asian people expect cruise is luxury, but actually Pacific cruise is quite kind of, how can I say, like activity-driven product. So it's hoping. So this is good because it's really ideal for Pacific Island situation, because you need to you can actually drop by some island without any transportation. But actually from Asia side, we have a higher expectation in terms of cruise marketing. So this area has to be kind of amended post COVID-19. And return market, Asian rich is really rich, but actually they are very discerning people. They actually worry too much, and they look for a good hospital, security about their income. So they have a very high expectation in terms of retired market. That's why Hawaii is really popular for Korean people and all people. And high-end is the right target, but actually we need to think about what's luxury for Asian people. So Asian are very branded driven, and they actually are very careful in choosing hotels and resorts by the name of the actually brand. So these actually area have to be reviewed after post COVID-19. So these are actually proposal. Instead of targeting Chinese market, like Chinese market is like kind of mess overall. I mean overall, but actually we just say target more Asian high ends, because the Singaporean, Hong Kong, Koreans are actually have a very protective in COVID-19. So we actually can target Asian high-end more than actually Chinese, but Chinese included definitely. So actually we just like have to know what Asian high-end wants, and from Pacific Island countries. And actually instead of saying we cruise, we just say tailored products for the market. So small group with family and friends, they expect something their own. They have a certain kind of request or selection. So hearing from their needs, so DMCs, actually product managers in Pacific can prepare their own products for them. And we need to upgrade the policy and actually regulations to target actually Asian retired people. So we need more hospital. We need the kind of policy to actually secure their money brought to the Pacific Islands. And we need to highlight, we need to actually make clear definition about Pacific sustainable tourism luxury. So if we just this luxury, it's like Gucci or Louis Vuitton. It's not actually Pacific sustainable luxury. So we need to define ourselves. We need to actually highlight what's the value of the luxury in the Pacific. So actually these actually idea have to be reviewed and thought by us. And we need to actually identify ourselves after post-COVID-19. So those are actually the goals. Actually, basically, we are just trying to benefit to local people. So before actually Korean travelers, they use only Korean operators based in Fiji. But actually, we encourage to use more local-driven products. We introduce their value, and actually, this money goes directly to local. So we don't really highlight. We don't really increase Korean people to use Koreans. So actually we need to that's why we need to kind of translation in information and actually delivering message in right way. So those actually our goals and kind of purposes, why we prepare our promotion based on actually MOFA support. So these are actually quite long, but actually I want to share them because our intention is to help local people in Pacific. And we need to talk about Korea because I'm sure most of you are here in this room are interested in Korean market. You needed some tips. How can we make partnerships with Korean market? Korean market is very small compared to Chinese and Japanese market, but it's really growing market. And millennial is leading overall tourism industry. And actually, we spend more money for tourism than before, than our parents actually generation. So we need to think about Korean market as a second tier of Asian actually luxury. Korean market is very interesting because as I mentioned earlier, we were very poor. In 1960, actually we are independent country for 1945, but actually from 1960 for 70 years, we became number 9 in the world in economic size. So actually we were poor as much as Ghana in Africa. So our GDP was $82. And now we are over $30,000. So actually, it's this big gap. And actually, we made a very miraculous growth for 70 years. So people call it, this is a miracle of Han River. Han River is like kind of river in the middle of the Seoul. So this is called Han River miracle. So this year we became number 9 from number 11 last year, number 10 last year, because of COVID-19. So other countries, developed countries kind of collapsed with the economy. So actually we became 9th in the world. Back into 1960, our major export was wigs, eyeglasses, clothes, which is kind of same with kind of developing country in East Asia. But now we are number 1 in shipbuilding, semiconductor, automobile. So we are very much highlighted IT technology. So Korea is leading in terms of actually technology and digital market, digital actually industry in the world. And as you see this chart, like Koreans are really well connected. So we have almost everybody, even my kids has 2 phones. Actually, most of them smartphones. So 96% of Koreans have a smartphone, and actually they have their own computer. So we always check our social media. We are very tech savvy people. So, and even government is really good advanced in terms of actually e-governments in the world, in the Asia number 1. And actually we have a very competitive in terms of actually internet digital area. And as you know, Koreans will be most popular because of the Gangnam Style and the world and the BTS. So BTS contributed 0.3% of GDP. So actually, you know, Dynamite actually got a number 1 single chart in a Billboard. And then the cultural power is really strong in Korea. And then Parasite got an Oscar award. And actually the culture export is really growing. It's as much as semiconductor, as you mentioned. So this is called Korean Wave, Hallyu. So this is kind of a government supporting area in terms of exports. So actually we are leading kind of like entertainment, especially game is number 1 in export, and music, drama, actually, those actually cultural influence is getting bigger. What I want to highlight more about Hallyu or Korean Wave is our influence to the Southeast Asia. So our celebrities are more popular than in actually Japan, China, Singapore, Hong Kong, Taiwan, than in Korea. So Baeongjun Yonsama he's not really popular, and actually most celebrities are popular in other countries, are not as much popular in Korea. So this is very weird situation, but actually we are exporting a lot the celebrities and their culture in the world. So which means targeting Korean market makes influence to Asian market too. So when it comes to Asian luxury, Asian high-end, using Korean celebrities most effective. So this is the area that I mentioned. So from the SPTO side, as a tourism marketing side, we can utilize Korean celebrities in marketing Pacific Island in the world and to Asian high-end people. As a summary, we are number 4 in Asia, number 9 in the world. We are very advanced in mobile, automobile, beauty, fashion, entertainment, technology. We are actually almost number 1 in the world. And actually, Koreans spend more time for leisure. So before we actually spend 70 hours per week, but now actually government regulated. They just forced not to work more. So 82 hours minimum actually maximum hours for working per week. So that means Koreans value more actually leisure in their life than before. And Koreans are very trendsetter. So we actually expert with the beauty industry and cosmetic and then plastic surgery even. So you will be amazed if you just check the images, how we can transform people to face into the plastic surgery. This is a really advanced area. Summer tourism, actually STA, is using Korean office to actually promote Asian market. So Korea, STA Korea in charge of Indonesia, Philippines, and Japan. So using this kind of influence of Korea to the Asian market, this is another way of approaching to Asian market because of the language, because of the culture. So we need someone in between for Asian market and actually Pacific. So Korea can be one of them. So another area that I want to highlight is actually our governments. But actually, I'm quite pro-government because the president is really people-driven person. So he always say people first, people come first. So their policy, their all kind of regulations are based on humanity. So they want to actually help people. This is their way of actually working. And you can really say in this COVID-19, their government actually policies really highlighted because Korea has the best method of tracking. So actually we had twice biggest actually mass outbreak, actually which was recently happened, 1 month ago, 15th of August, we had a big outbreak because of the kind of church actually movement. I don't want to say about actually. So, but the government tracked a lot and they tested a lot, traced it, and actually they cure them. So it's all free of charge. So they don't really charge anything for patients. So this is the only country actually offered all medical treatment for people free of charge. So that's how actually Korean government protected their people from the COVID-19. So this kind of technology and their, government's intention is really, really moving for us. So actually we want to actually use this tactic to Pacific Island in the future. So as a preventive method. So Pacific is really careful because of the disease spreading. So we need to actually, we can export our actual technology and immune system to prevent future pandemic situations. So this is area we really want to highlight in the future. Not only actually COVID-19, Korean government announced it, the New Deal, Korean New Deal. So that's digital, Green New Deal, and stronger safety net. Pacific countries are popular because happiest country. The Vanuatu, Fiji are ranked at the happiest country in the world because you have a good safety net. You have a family. You have a kind of tribe. So you don't have to worry about your childcare. You don't have to worry about your job loss. The Koreans don't. Actually, we are single. We are alone. So without parents, we can't have a babies anymore. So that's why we actually have a decreased number of the population. And it's number 1 in the world. The decrease rate is number 1 in the world. That's why. So Korean government is supporting people for the safety net with a Korean New Deal. So this actually applies on a lot of technology as well. So I want to just highlight some examples that would apply to developing countries. So first was a zero discharges toilet system. So this will be applied Palau in coming years. So this is a kind of self-purifying water cycle system without any kind of system. So this technology will be applied to small island, small entertainment actually area, or actually railway or special events. This is really portable and very clean technology. So this can be applied to most Pacific countries. So actually under ODA program, we can actually push this technology to be distributed to the Pacific countries. This is example like how the toilet was established. And the most popular one is rainwater purification water supply to Vanuatu, Solomon. Actually, Seoul National University, they actually donated their technology and their establishment in 2 countries. This can be also applied to other countries like Nauru, Kiribati, actually Tuvalu, who are lacking actually a sanitation system because of the water actually the water tank as well. So, and K agriculture solar system is also applied to Fiji. So using actually natural energy, you can have a more actually growth in agriculture and technology. And actually also this renewable energies transition is also good technology we are applying in not only Fiji to Indonesia as well. And coral restoration project, this is very interesting. So using 3D print, they print the artificial skeleton of coral. They actually make a coral growth back. So this is really, really influencer to Pacific Islands with pollution or with possible actually damage with the coral system. So this is technology we are having in Korea market. And waste actually sorting and production system. The moving car actually collect garbage, and they actually sort out the actually the garbage, and they automatically distribute it, whether it's renewable or actually burnt out. So this is a kind of moving system we are applying to Indonesia, but we can actually support Pacific Islands with using this technology. And biowashing, any polluted soil actually can be cleaned through this system. So we had a kind of big oil tragedy in Mauritius, right? Indian Ocean. So their soils are quite actually contaminated. So using this technology, they can just revive their soil condition and health system. Pacific actually are very strong with the green energy projects, so where we can actually work together in the future. So these are actually area Korean government is supporting and developing country, but the problem is they don't know much about Pacific condition. So SPTO has a role to promote Pacific condition, and our actually problem, our actually desperate needs, so that Korean government can support their technology by changing our environment to cleaner, the better conditions. So actually, so far, I'll just stop now so that I can have some questions if you have. Oh, okay. Do you have any questions? I have a lot of comments here. Okay.
Yeah, Daisy, there's some questions from Charlene requesting if the presentation can be made available after the presentation today for participants.
Yes. Okay. Can you select 1, 2 questions? Because I cannot read everything now.
All right. Glenn Waiwetamana asks, ADB has stated that developing Asia's economy will shrink by 0.7% this year, depending on the opening of the borders and with the rebound of 6.8% forecasted for Asia's economy next year. Can Destination Fiji realistically make a dent in the Asian market, especially for Korea and China?
Yes. Okay, that's ADB question, right? From Glenn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Glenn.
Yes, Glenn, can I answer it in email because it's really technical issue, so I can't really speak now because I know what you say, but actually I want to send some data to defend your question. So please leave your email address now so I can just reply after presentation, please. Another easy question.
Another okay. Another question from Hyun
Yeah.
So Lee. The perception of luxury is very different in Korea and in the Pacific, as you have mentioned. What are strategies that can potentially close this gap, as bringing in luxurious brands, luxurious brand will take some time and cost, especially now that high-end market need to be targeted.
Right. Yes, Pacific luxury is very different, as Mr. Lee mentioned. Actually, Koreans expect mostly Maldives, Bali actually condition with really good hotel and environments. The Pacific actually don't have much. So when it comes to comparing price and condition, Pacific has lots of actually lost. So we always highlight what's environment actually. So room actually can be better because of with the investment. Pacific has so much more than actually the room or facility has. So when I worked Fiji, so we just highlight Fiji doesn't need any pool villa because just a few steps out, there is a big ocean out there. So there are a lot of corals there. So we need to actually compare the condition of Southeast Asia has and Pacific has, the activity we are offering. And actually, most importantly, people are very different. Actually, we just like value people the most, but actually it's really hard to deliver the message to Korean people. So the following presentation, actually I did with a lot of media and social media to highlight this differentiation. So let me just finish my presentation and I'm going to continue actually to the other questions. Mr. Lee, can you just like contact me later because he's Korean, I think. So later I will just give you more actually examples. But actually, I have a lot of presenters go on. So please leave your questions for my friend and so that I can email you directly after the presentation. I'm really interested to answer all the questions you have. So let me just finish and I'll just continue the questioning. Would it be okay? Okay, thank you. I hope my presentation is not too boring for you guys. So, but actually, I just want to deliver in-depth information, what Korean want to actually try to do to Pacific Island countries. So I'll just talk about marketing because Mr. Lee highlighted what's the difference from Pacific from Asian countries, other actually developing countries. Sorry about that. So actually, we actually researched a lot to understand the market situation and change the market situation. Actually, this is based on Korean consumer survey, January, February, which is before COVID-19 break happened. 28% Koreans answered they want to go to Pacific countries. This is second highest than European countries. European countries are mostly 48%, but Pacific is really beloved destination for Korean people. But actually, they don't know much about Pacific. So when we asked which country do you know, they said Fiji, mostly 80%, Papua New Guinea, Solomon, because they watched a lot of TV documentary. But they don't know much about other countries like such as Cook Islands, Niue, Marshall, Micronesia. So only countries were exposed to the media are actually well known to Korean people. And mostly Koreans know Pacific as Guam and Saipan. But Guam and Saipan is part of the Pacific, but actually this is USA territory. When you say South Pacific, is actually, we don't really include Guam and Saipan, but people mostly think about Pacific as Guam and Saipan and Australia and New Zealand. This is kind of different perception we are having. And actually we asked if you don't mind transit to Pacific because we don't have any more direct flight but Palau. So 82% they say yes, they want to actually transit. They prefer the Singapore most, and actually then New Zealand and Sydney. So actually we can promote our route by Singapore, Auckland, and Brisbane. So these are actually good news for us. And how many days do you want to spend? More than nine days, this is reply. And they mostly want to find information at online platform, Naver, Google. So, and they want to book it by individually. So they don't want to use agent more than expected. So in terms of marketing from our side, we often invite travel agent, but actually I don't say travel agent is not necessary. It's just very important partner, but actually when it comes to consumer side, they want to know more about information online digital platform. So when you actually prepare the marketing, we need the Korean version of your information. So this is a really crucial area according to our survey. So there are just 6 ads according to survey again. We actually had a survey after COVID-19 break. So from June and July, as we just asked questions whether you want to travel or from when and who and how many days. So in 6 months, after COVID-19 is gone, after 6 months, they were traveling as usual. They will stay longer definitely, and they want to go to Asia and European country and clean country like Pacific. This is actually very important answers from our survey. And they want to travel with family and acquaintance, friends, and solo. Solo marketing, solo tourism is really growing for Korean market. So because we don't get married anymore, so solo is very important for Korean in terms of marketing Korean. And special interest traveler, as I mentioned, they will travel first. And social information again, they want to find more information in social media, blog, and actually online platform. So in terms of booking platform, they prefer Naver is like Google in Korea, like Baidu in China. So we have a Naver in Korea. So Naver is the most preferred platform for information. Skyscanner, Hotel Combines, Airbnb, those are actually international OTAs. So when it comes to marketing to Korean market, again, the same. Actually, we actually have to offer information to these global OTAs and products. So, but we don't have much. If you just, we find information on this actually area, there are really few products displayed. So these are actually, actually area we need to improve in the future. Actually, when it comes to actually high-end marketing, so Korea is actually quite growing now. So, but we can't really compare directly because of income size and number of population. But actually, it's really true. The middle class of Asian and Korea is really growing now. It's very interesting. Korea, what Korean likes? They actually have very put importance in image. So they're actually attracted by image. So Samoa Tosua or Cook Island Aitutaki are the most favored actually imagery we are having. So I mentioned again, but actually the image is very important. And actually younger people like millennial generation, they travel a lot. They spend much more money than their parents. And as again, we are actually very tech savvy people. So we need more actually digitalized information actually compared to other Asian markets. And Koreans are mostly travel a lot in nearest country like Southeast Asia and Japan and China. But actually it's really changing more because they want to spend more time overseas after COVID-19. So they will actually don't mind travel long hauls. So actually they look for some kind of unique destination. They can spend more time without any kind of infection issue. So I'm sure Pacific is one of their actually preference, the top of mind in the future. So actually these trends actually reflect that about how we can prepare the future events. And very interestingly, most Koreans can understand English, but they don't want to speak. They don't want to read. This is kind of difference. That's why we keep highlighting Korean version information is needed to actually deliver our message to Korean people. And actually Korean agents or consumers, they want some special offer, but not last minute because the Pacific is quite long haul. So we can't really go tomorrow. So we need to kind of prepare offer actually in 3 months ahead because our booking period 3 months to 1 month. So actually we need to prepare kind of special events, a special promotion, at least 1 month prior to their departure time. And actually they are very keen on social media. So social media, blog, website are very most actually platform we are actually having. So we designed almost our actually platform, our marketing strategy based on these changes, based on actual consumer needs after COVID-19. So why Pacific? Pacific is because authentic, very unique. Actually, good ocean, good beach everywhere. Actually, Mediterranean countries, the Indian Ocean, even Caribbean has good beach. But actually, Pacific has a good beach, not only good beach, very special culture, very special actually people and their actually mindset. So these like authenticities, the one we highlight more than beach, more than actually good condition of hotel. But actually, if you know, but actually most of your participants will be from Pacific, but I'm sure you know what I'm saying. But you know, Koreans are very not used to Pacific culture. So actually, when it comes to actually watching the documentary, we are so fascinated. So we take it for granted, but actually Koreans, Asian market have think very differently. So the key point is actually cultural aspect. And yeah, as I mentioned, actually our sales actually trade people are gone, close their business. That's why actually, again, we need to target more OTA side, online platforms. And actually, I'm sorry to say it, if there is New Zealand, actually Australian participant, but New Zealand and Australian, actually, like we travel to Japan and China, we don't really spend much money for nearest country. But actually, long haul people like us, like we go to Fiji and Samoa for honeymoon, for actually spending their retired life. We actually want to spend more than just normal travel. So actually, that's why Pacific can have to decide whether they have a number, whether they have a yield. Actually, this is kind of decision when it comes to marketing in the future. But we need to keep the traditional market safe, but actually we need to target something different in the future to increase the yield area. And actually, so I want to highlight, keeping Pacific authenticity, diversity is the key actually in voice of marketing in the future events. Again, so I'll just go through very quickly because all examples. So authenticity, this is what we did and what we are going to do to highlight authenticity. So diversity is the strength of Pacific. You have a whole different language. You have a whole actually different people culture, but people don't know because we treat Pacific as a kind of Africa, like big bulk of our continent. But Pacific has very much diversity in culture and language and people. So this is area we need to really highlight in the future. And underwater is great. So you are in the triangle. So this dive actually is the most preferred actually yielding build actually industry. So diving market is really growing for Korean. So Solomon, Vanuatu, and Papua New Guinea is also really getting popular because of the divers in Korea. And we actually make a lot of stories. So storynomics is a really good keyword after actually COVID-19 because people are attracted by story. I don't really have to say because you know the power of the story. So people don't watch any more advertisement. They just look for something really interesting story now. So actually, I want you to be a storyteller. You just create a tailored program actually up to the small actually special interest traveler in the future to highlight sustainability. This is actually keywords we are actually having in mind in terms of marketing. So we're actually using integrated marketing strategy. So with one story, with one keywords, we're actually using it to magazine, social media, like websites, you know, everywhere. So actually, we just want to deliver one message in different actually version. This is how we actually do marketing to increase actually brand value, to actually make it more valuable than just actually advertisement. And PR, we are using a lot of PR because it's really strong component for marketing mix. So these are actually just like examples how we actually target. Tokelau is really, really unique island, right? So actually we highlight a lot of story of Tokelau. Why is it so far from actually, you know, without any airlines, without actually any good transportation conditions. So this unique story actually made people very alive because you have a moving capital. This is very interesting story for Korean market to get to know Tokelau more than actually before. And Samoa is like very interesting country because during the Korean War, Lieutenant actually Walter, he was a kind of commander for the war actually during the time from USA. He actually pointed Samoa as a second country if the war is over, if the war is failed by North Korea. So Samoa could be our own country, if we fail the war. So this is a kind of recorded history, but that's why we actually have a lot of Koreans there even. And American Samoa is the first country that president visited. So President Moon Jae-in actually visited Papua New Guinea last year for the APEC summit, but only 2 times we had a presidential visit to Pacific countries. Samoa is the biggest in the world, and then we know very well John Dwayne, and the wrestler is really popular in Korea. So we actually highlight Samoa as the biggest people in the world because you are expert, actually, the sailor. So you actually explore almost all Pacific, the Polynesian countries using the boats. So this actually historical fact can be connected to actually the famous celebrity, famous wrestler you know. So this is kind of connecting actually stories we are developing now. Yep, from Micronesia, this is the original Bitcoin. So this actually story was told by me and then to the magazines. So it was very attracted people like from economic magazines especially. Whale watching was very popular in Tonga, but Niue is very easy access. So you don't have to really go, in depth. You can just arrive and then a 40 minutes drive, you can see the whale watching in the darkest night in the world. So this is very unique environment you are having. So what I mean, each country, each island has their own story. So very interesting story that attract Asian actually adventurous travelers. So actually, I want to just highlight more because each country has each story. So we made a platform, storytelling platform in Naver, which is the biggest searching engine in Korea. So we say Pacific, we never know. This is storytelling we are developed. And actually we have a lot of column online too. But actually we don't really highlight good side. We just highlight more actually negative side as well. So we talk about climate change, kind of power game in Pacific with China, USA, and Korea in the middle. So actually these actually kind of modern news as well as historical events and conditions mixed actually to deliver the message of the Pacific Korean people. And we actually supported a lot of documentary program to show actually the reality of the life. And Solomon, Vanuatu, and Vanuatu again for the sound and music. So Korean musicians visited Vanuatu to make their own music, mixing Vanuatuans actually special song and themes. This televised program was very popular in Korean visitors. And yeah, they also show very, amazing, beautiful island there. And then My Little Boy, the celebrity visited Fiji, and then they actually experienced the Fijian braiding, kava, naked dance. So these cultural aspects were introduced through this program too. There are a lot of magazines, stories, and newspapers. We had it last year under the TTPP programs we had. Actually, there are a lot. So I can introduce more coverage because I have a separate presentation introducing only exposure of the media, so that you can get idea what kind of stories are working in Asian market. And we also promote Pacific-made products. So noni and like pure fish is my favorite, and mainland is in Samoa, but cosmetic in Korea is really big market. So we actually highlighting more stories, and we try to import those products to Korea. So as you mentioned, actually agents are closing their business. It's quite natural, but it's very sad. So even Hana Modu, they are number 1 and number 2, they're actually almost closing their business. So far we have 726 agents are closed. And actually 90% are very small and medium agents. So which means we can't work anymore with agents. So we don't have a good partner in a traditional way. So we need to find our own way to promote and sell. This is the kind of situation we are facing. And actually to reflecting the changes condition, we need to actually develop different programs for slow tourism and special actually interest of people. So we need to actually specify and make a clear actually segments we not just like a tour. We just target this product for diver. We just target for honeymooners. We need to really clear programs by understanding their needs, their expectations. So this is really change it. We need to very, very, very keen on this area. So this is very interesting because we actually try to differentiate Pacific. So we just named it extreme Melanesia, because PNG, Solomon, Vanuatu don't have much good resorts. I mean, Vanuatu is an exception, but actually the condition-wise, we just highlight more adventure, more activity outside. So we don't sell room, we sell activity for Melanesian country. So we highlight more volcano, we highlight more diving in Solomon in World War II area. PNG is really diversity in terms of like bird watching and natural resources. So those actually countries are highlighted for activities. So when people ask on room, we don't really care because activities more actually driven in this area country. Polynesia is a different story. So we actually go to Polynesia because of the honeymooners, romance. So we highlight more actually environmental condition. Samoa, actually, Cook, Niue, those actually countries are beloved by the romance segment. And actually, Micronesia, Tonga, actually those thinking countries have a very unique, their own life. So we actually want to highlight the cultural aspect, although we can't really go because we need to go to Hawaii to go to some Micronesia or Guam and then transfer to actually Yap and Palau. So actually, because of the difficult air connectivity, it's hard to promote a tour program, but we need to highlight something different angle. So people will come to Yap to see Bitcoin origin. So we need to give a special reason to visit there, despite of the difficult connectivity. So this is a different actually approach we're having. At Palau, actually, we have two airlines, Korean airline, Asiana. We need to keep it. So actually, we will promote more actually Palau after COVID-19. So Palau is the most targeted country for us to promote. Fiji has everything. So Fiji is really something everyone. So Fiji is really, really centric destination we are promoting now. So I'll just show you very, very quickly the area we're actually targeting. And we are making theme for Pacific. By connectivity, we're making programs as well. Cruise, actually, we're trying to highlight because Tahiti is the most beloved country because of the cruise destination. And we have sent a lot of photographers to make award-winning photography. And we supported charter boat to Solomon Islands. Actually, we planned to make a charter boat to Palau and Fiji this year, but we couldn't really do it because of COVID-19. But after that, after actually, sorry, how can I turn? Yeah. Do you see the, okay. Oh, sorry. I need to get rid of the feedback. Do you see the feedback on the screen? Okay. Tama, please, can you get rid of feedback? Oh.
It's not showing on your presentation.
Oh, that's good. Okay, thank you.
Good.
Yeah, I'll just go ahead. Yeah, I'll just click because it's almost done. So actually, we just supported charter boats. We just packages differently for diverse family honeymooners. We supported agent training last year to Cook Islands, Fiji, Samoa long stay program. We actually sent 2 bloggers to make really big stories. And we supported seminars and meeting last year. So we actually had a Meet the Pacific. We just planned to Meet the Pacific when COVID-19 is gone. So maybe next year, please. So please feel free to come to Korea, like to Meet the Pacific, to meet the Korean sellers. Collaborating with the embassy, we have a trade investment forum last year. I lecture a lot for sustainable tourism to actually in tourism industry and actually individual travelers, so that we can actually make people understand what the Pacific luxury, what Pacific sustainable tourism means. SPTE, I mean, I really miss this time, and then I miss actually next year too. And lastly, capture the concept. As you mentioned, the Koreans love image. So this is my blog like front page. So people love to this see this kind. So they just dream about it. So we need to keep pushing a certain like a landmark, just key imagery. The only Fiji has not is this one. So Fiji is quite famous in terms of branding, but we don't have a kind of good reminder in terms of landmark. So Nauru is famous on this like rocks, Niue, Tonga. So each country has a very distinctive imagery like this. So we need to keep highlighting good imagery, good wording, good description. So this is what we need for Korean and Asia market. So e-platforms, finally, we actually search it. Naver is the most searched engine in Korea. Google is second. YouTube definitely. Social media, Facebook, Instagram. So we have all this e-platform under SPTO, supported by Korean government. So please visit our platform, leave your message. You can also see the translation using your application. So because I explained a lot, too much about the importance of e-platform we have to have. So actually we have built already, we are actually operating actively. So please visit and feel free to give your information, because we are happy to include you, because we need more contents, because we just use more SPTO, but we are trying to include sellers, whoever actually try to tap into the market. So please share your English version to us. So we can make a Korean version, upload, and those actually platforms. Even actually in number one media, we have platforms too. So we are quite expert in terms of storytelling. We are actually highlighting more sustainable tourism story in platforms too. Yeah, so interesting facts. These are kind of series we are having now. And specialist program we are operating now. The most importantly, we are actually building a Pacific Sustainable Tourism website. Because of actually lack of trade partners from now on, we don't have any much more sellers actually since actually the COVID-19. So we are trying to make a direct sales through this platform. So we actually need your program to be included free of charge. So we don't have to charge anything. So actually just send us your good program to my email so that we can actually make a kind of form we fill in, and then we just upload actually the products on the website. So yeah, these actually, I'll share this slide so that you can see what's inside of the platform. We actually almost finished the tourism guidebook. We will distribute it from October. And we support, actually we select the certain countries, prioritized country, we support directly to the DMC. So we make partnership, like such as Rosie Holiday with a Korean partner like SPTO Korea. We make them partnership, and we support a cash-based actually program so that they can build a Korean website or guidebook. This is how we can do from under the recovery plan supported by MOFA Korea. We have webinars from now on, so we will actually educate very in-depth about Asians' preference and differences. So if anyone are interested in this program, please contact to my SPTO headquarters so that we can actually work together. So this is my context. Sorry, it took so long. I'm so sorry, but please feel free to contact me because my name is Daisy. So Daisy Park Korea is everywhere. So just visit my Facebook, Instagram. So please feel free to share your idea and ask questions. Well, actually, it was very honored to share my idea, share our plan, because I'm really, driven to Pacific. I really love Pacific. So I want to make really big change. I want to contribute it. So I'm so happy. Keep working for SPTO. So after this, please ask questions, leave your message to my email so that I can reply you. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.